architecture on it for you.
And we're rolling. Welcome in for another segment of Crystal Clear Conversations with your host, Raj Tree. And we have another beautiful segment and a beautiful, excited guest, one of my favorites thus far. And we welcome in Baba Osageyfo. Thank you, Baba.
Jambo, Alafia.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Salam alaikum.
Yes.
Shalom alaikum. Black laws for all black people.
Indeed.
Greetings.
Salute to all listeners out there. We thank you once again, and all video subscribers, thank you kindly. So this time around, Baba, we had a great conversation. Last time we had a great conversation about how to build business and, how you were celebrating your 50th year anniversary, and also tips and pointers for other smaller-minded business people like myself growing in the pathway, how to, improve and, different help along the way like that. This time we want to talk about, Baba, let's talk about the different range of what is progress and what is building. What does it mean to what does that actually mean for our people? A lot of people work jobs and feel like they will feel redeemed if they started their own business. Well, you have people who've already started their own business who still feel like they won't be redeemed until they get to this point. Everyone has different starting points. What is the collective finish point for us?
You can't just come straight out with that. You have to kind of get into I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
You have to get into the stories related to what it is that you're asking me.
Mm-hmm.
And when we came here, not in 1619, but in 1558, it does not matter what oppressor was oppressing us. They're all European, and we know who they are. It was the Spanish and St. Augustine, as opposed to 1619, which is almost 70 years later. Now, when we look at how we're going to put ourselves into a position to recognize the truth,
Mm-hmm.
that comes from building something.
Yes, sir.
All right. So in slavery, and we all know what that is, we were conscious. Now, what does that mean? We were conscious in slavery. We were building something for someone else. All right. And every field worker, okay, Malcolm called them field Negroes, was balanced by a house worker, a house Negro and a field Negro. Okay, now, in referencing what was going on, both of them were still slaves, but one knew that he had lost all entitlement to the concept of freedom, and the other was thinking that maybe I'll get free if I'm good to master, and master understands that I'm on his side, and so forth and so on.
Yes, sir.
So now, they were building a relationship with master. That's the house Negro.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But the field Negro had no doubt. He was totally conscious about who master was.
Right.
All right? And master was not someone you build a relationship. Master was someone you get away from around,
Mm-hmm.
because master was enslaving you.
Right.
And not only physical enslavement, but we went into the concept of, let's see if I can phrase this properly. We say genocide, but then there's a realm that's greater than genocide,
Mm-hmm.
and that's called menticide,
Right.
the systematic and deliberate destruction of a whole race of people's minds.
Yes, sir.
So, in the house, our minds were confused about the idea that we would get something, and that concept is still going on now, because we went through the Civil War thinking that we were going to be free. We went through the Spanish-American War thinking we were going to be free. The First World War, the Second World War, the Korean War, myself in Vietnam, and everybody was thinking that if we participate in what's being asked of us to do, that we'll have a chance at being free. Well, to this point, we've not even got an apology yet for slavery. We've had a black president, and we still have not gotten an apology for slavery. So what are we building? When we begin to speak in terms of the pyramids, there's no doubt who built that and what it was. It was something to reference us as to who we were when we sank into the depths of who we are.
Right.
From the pyramids to the projects, or is it from the projects to the pyramids? It's one of those, or it's both of those. So our reality is, what are we building, and how do we reference what we're building? Does it help our enemy? You see, we're in a Holocaust, and the proper definition for the term Holocaust is when your oppressor becomes your deity. Okay, so if you're building a threshold for the oppressor to continue to oppress you, then you're moving in a foolish line of reality. That's not in your best interest. What we're looking for is getting to and into a position of self-determination. Now, business frees you from the daily micromanagement routine of America. America is a state of mind that don't mind messing up your mind.
Yes, sir.
So this is an American reality. You are not an American. You are here as an African in America. And referencing that, we go into business because business gives us a certain element of direction. Now you're beginning to take things and put things together that have a future. Whereas in the field, you did the same thing every day. There was no future. You worked, you had about a 7-year routine that you lasted out there in those fields. I mean, you didn't make your quota, you got whipped. You were up at sunrise, you worked till sunset, and then you had to do things other than what you did in the fields that still were related to maintaining your slavery. So now, what did we do? We built the courage to get out of there, okay? And you've been told that you basically got involved with what we call the Underground Railroad. And the main conductor was one of our own, great Queen Mother Sister Harriet Tubman, okay? Now, let me try to explain something to you. We bow down to Sister, because she was brave. She was super brave and intelligent. But when I ask people, as I travel, how many people did Sister Queen Mother bring back from down south? Oh, hundreds, 500, 600, 700. Well, the truth is she brought 92 people back because she made 19 trips. And if you stop and think that you're trying to be clandestine, secretive, you can't bring 100 people, 20 people. You might bring 4 or 5 people because you got to be quiet and watch out for what you're doing. You're moving at night so they can't see you through the daylight concept. So what happened? 100 miles. And that was devastating. So 1,300 miles, that's not going to be happening. But the Indian encampment, the Native American encampment might be 50 miles down the road or 30 miles or whatever. It was close, okay? And we were able to connect with them. As a matter of fact, the greatest law enforcement agent of that time, the early 1800s, was someone, his name was Bass Reeves, and he was a former slave. And the master was his father. And he learned to read. He was very bright early. And the master was afraid for him that if they found out he could read, they would probably kill him. So he got him involved with other things that would form and maintain and hold his interest, and that was like shooting. So he became a statewide known marksman. And he won all the championships in the state that he lived in. And began to win prize money. And as he got a little older, 16, 17, he asked his father, well, can I get some of the prize money? And his father punched him in the face and said, you don't ever ask me anything like that. You do as I say do. And he punched his father back, whooped him, and split. He didn't know where to go. He ended up in a Native American encampment. And there he became a part of the family of that group of tribal natives. And as he got a little older, now this is a great marksman. The cat could shoot, pistols, rifles, everything. And he got cool with one brother, a native that was his age, and something happened where they broke a treaty. The natives broke the treaty. And this brother and the Native American partner took the Native Americans who did what they weren't supposed to do to justice, to the white man. The judge was so impressed with this guy that he made him America's first black U.S. Marshal. I'm trying to remember, this is an escaped slave. Now he becomes a U.S. Marshal. His name is Bass Reeves. And as the story goes, they created another whole reality related to him, and this guy is called the Lone Ranger.
Okay.
Yeah, the Lone Ranger was a black man.
Okay.
His name was Bass Reeves. So when we begin to look at participation in building something with someone who sees themselves as superior to you, is always going to end up in them taking what you have. Right now we have a couple of businesses in Georgia at the new Black Wall Street Marketplace, 8109 8109 Mall Parkway in Stonecrest, Georgia. And if you remember the Black Wall Street in 1921, all the way running through 1929, it was destroyed. Well, it became one of the most wealthy points of economics in this country because they controlled oil. They had oil wells. There were 300 millionaires in a small area called Greenwood.
Right.
All right? But they ended up taking all that away from them and bombing and destroying, but not destroying the oil wells, just the dwellings and the people and all of that. So now what are we building? To get back to the question, we built that and they destroyed it. And there's 100 stories like that. What are we building? And what are the tools that we use first to build? Well, that's called participation and non-participation.
What's the difference? Can you explain a little bit further? What do you mean by examples of each of those, please?
Okay, let's take someone that people are somewhat familiar with. That's Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. King's, I shouldn't call him his hero, his teacher.
Right.
Okay, who he never met, but he studied him. Okay, it was Mohandas K. Gandhi.
Right.
Now, Gandhi could never be my hero because he was racist.
Right.
He had a problem with black African people. All right. But Dr. King went past that because he was nonviolent. He figured that nonviolence would put us in a position to liberate ourselves, because obviously we didn't have the manpower, weaponry, or any of that kind of stuff to combat the greatest military on earth at that time, the United States of America. So Dr. King studied Gandhi, and Gandhi was perceived as nonviolent, a passive resistor. He was perceived as that. But when interviewed by an American journalist, he was asked, "Are you, sir, a passive resistor?" He said, "Absolutely not." He said, "Well, how would you term yourself then? Because you appear to be nonviolent, and you're an activist, and you're against what they're doing to your people." He said, "I'm a non-participant. Why would I participate in the demise of my people?" And he was asked, "Well, what does that mean?" He said, "Well, I don't involve myself with any of the things that they're trying to do to build their foothold here in India. That means I don't vote. You know what I'm saying? I don't do any of the things that would give us citizens. We're already citizens of India.
Right.
We don't want to be citizens of the Commonwealth, of England, Britain, whatever you call that. We want to be independent, and we will be independent."
Right.
So now, how then do we participate here? Now, how do we take that and tie that in to what we're talking about here as business people in referencing what it is that's going to give our children something to catapult themselves into a future that is free and alive and energetic, creative, and constantly about building something that's in our best interest? How do we do that? Well, first of all, we review which direction we're headed in. You know, years ago, brother, I don't know, you might have been your son's age. You know, they used to always say, you can't win the battle unless you're involved in the battle. Gotcha. That means you have to be part of the struggle. You got to be part of America. You got to vote. You got to do it. Okay, and then that took us nowhere.
Yeah, like movies like The Spook Was Sat by the Door gave all that.
All that. That took us nowhere because we're in a worse position today than we were 100 years ago. We are very confused about who we are. We have an identity crisis. We cannot. We're calling ourselves Americans, and I asked you, what is an American? The Americans bombed Nagasaki and Hiroshima. The Americans bombed Greenwood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Black Wall Street. Mm-hmm. The Americans killed 70 million Indians by what's the terminology? By killing off their food source, their clothing source, their dwelling source, and that was the buffalo. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you who you are when we're talking about identification. Right. The greatest of all the Lakota and the Ogallala, those are Sioux. Mm-hmm. I speak a little bit of their language, okay? And the greatest chief was who in this country we call Sitting Bull. Now, that's not their language, so why would you call this man by their language term? Right. Let's get back to the source. Go back to the source, Sankofa, to find out how to come forward properly. Right. His name was Yotanka, which means the buffalo and the wind. In other words, the wind, because they moved constantly. Right. But the buffalo was considered God to them. But the term for that is Yotanka. Great, Yotanka. Right. All right? So now, when they couldn't defeat Yotanka, he said no. All right. So basically where we are at this point is trying to conceptualize the reality of building institutions. And we think that we're supposed to begin from an economic perspective. But many times economics will keep us as the hamster in the hamster wheel. We're just going on and on and on and on. Right. And at some point, we're going to have to come to some crystal clear understanding of what we're supposed to be doing with this money that we're putting together. Because if you study, you'll find that we are the 7th largest gross national product in the world. Not amongst black people, but amongst all people. 7th largest. Now, we've got...
You talk about the black community.
The black community in America.
In America, yes, sir.
Okay. GNP,
yes, sir,
is the 7th largest in the world.
Yes, sir.
Now, let's deal with something that a lot of folks in your in your age group are dealing with now, because we've confused you, and I don't like that. And I try to correct it every time I hear it. We're not talking about community. We're talking about nation. All right. And when I was your age or younger, we were talking about nationalism. All right. So that's what you're trying to build. Mm-hmm. Billy, I'm trying to think of the evangelist's name, the white evangelist.
Billy Graham.
Billy Graham. Yeah. Billy Graham is best termed as a white nationalist. Okay? And we have great respect for Billy Graham because he built something. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, there is nothing wrong with us talking about black nationalism. When you go to these festivals that we're at all the time, I'm here presently at the St. Louis African Festival of the Arts, okay, which I participate in, right? And there are festivals like that all over the country. Mm-hmm. Italian Fest, Polish Fest. You know, we can go on and off with that, right?
The Greek Fest is going on just across
exactly.
Yes,
so that's Italian nationalism, that's Polish nationalism, whatever, French nationalism, right. So forth and so on. So now what we're looking at is not community. We're not a community anywhere, but we are a nation of people, totally dependent upon another nation of people for everything we need. Mm-hmm. Now, my study point And my field of direction and my degrees is in topography, not physical topography, but the overall view of spiritual topography. And when you look at St. Louis, the greater St. Louis area is 2,897,000 people.
Right.
Now, when you look at St. Louis, you say, well, St. Louis, Milwaukee, Portland, Seattle, Washington, D.C., those are all cities about the same size. St. Louis is larger than all of those cities. And the black populace in St. Louis is more profoundly leveled than any of those other cities. This is a chocolate city. Now, when you start talking about someplace like Atlanta, that's almost 7 million people. So this city offers an opportunity to gateway to the south. So what we're building here, I put a lot of time into St. Louis. Been coming here for over 40 years doing what I do. I've had a business here on Del Mar, so forth and so on. And we just happen to be in St. Louis today, but we travel all over the country. So when we start talking about institutions, first you must have concepts. The camera that's filming me right now, before you can build and manifest that camera on a physical plane, it must be an idea.
That's correct.
Okay, so from the idea of conceptualization, we then institutionalize the machine. And we bring it to this level where it's useful for what it is that we're trying to do here today. So now we've got to take a real good look at prioritizing what are the first concepts that we're talking about dealing with, because business is not going to free us. Business is a portion of what it is that we must build to create a future for our children. And I'm very proud to say that 5 children, 16 grandchildren, and 24 great-grandchildren. That's a future. I'm looking for all of them to have a chance to get what my children got. Okay, now I have less control of what's going on with my grands and my great-grands, but I gave my children what they needed to the point where all of them are part of what we're talking about right now. All of them are in business. And in business, building something that's in our best interest. So where then shall we take this? We've got to review whatever it is that we do before we do it. Analyze, reanalyze, critique, re-critique, and then do it again. And come up with what we think is the most logical conclusion to creating what it is that we want. You're creating this. This is something that we're doing. But you cannot be guided by the oppressor or by the enemy. There's no question to the antelope who the lion is. He eats you alive. So the antelope does not take little baby fawn antelopes to the lion and say, Mr. Lion, can you please teach this baby antelope to outrun you?
Not the other baby fawns, just this one though. Just watch this one. Mine. So that you can't eat him up. It's called, in Mississippi when I was a child, I used to hear my grandfather and them talk about, oh yeah, that's a matter there of allowing the fox to guard the door to the chicken coop. And you know what the fox do to the chicken. All right? So now, what's being done to us? Presently, according to the Rand McNally World Commercial and Marketing Guide, if you know how to break that down, you get a great understanding of it. Now, I believe we were in the middle of defining concept and institution. Okay. And before anything can become an institution, it has to be a concept. Because the concept gives you the power to look at how best to create the institution. And at this point, we're not quite ready to begin to create institutions that we will have control over because someone else has control over us. We are a nation of people, okay? Not a vast number of fragmented communities, but a nation of people who are totally dependent on another nation of people for everything that we need. That's not in our best interest. What's the first step to that, Baba?
First is recognition. The very idea that you even recognize that you're caught up in this concept. And the Jamaican brothers call it tricknology. We've been deceived to the point that now we deceive ourselves. Okay, so we've got to cleanse the very essence of how we go about coming up with a conclusion. And we don't have that order. In other words, if you're deciding what show you're going to do, okay, you have to go through a whole lot of different concepts related to how far is it, what does it cost, how many people does it draw, you know, like what else can I do there other than just sell my wares. Okay, now when I was beginning all of this, we went through all that until we got, and we went through a few things, but the most devastating concept was basically COVID. Now there were some things before COVID for some of us that were devastating. When the bottom dropped out of the silver industry, you know, and when it escalated to the point where we couldn't afford silver, we went to copper. We made a good decision, okay? And that copper, all that going back to copper, we were silversmiths, and no one was doing copper in 1979, and not out here. And when we really couldn't afford silver because it went from $7 an ounce to $49 an ounce in one day, we went instantly back to copper. Now, that has been with us since '79, because there are many coppersmiths out here now, and we're attempting to teach them the difference between how we work in copper and how we work in silver, palladium, gold, beryllium, you know, all that kind of stuff, right? And some will learn, some will not, but there'll be enough of it going on where we'll continue to do what we're doing, rather than just hand-wrought tool and rhythm management of the metal. Now you're talking about firing the metal. Now you're talking about casting the metal. Now you're talking about cutting the stones, all of that, which is another whole level that introduces you to concepts and people that are interested in helping you with what you're doing, because they look at it as something that's a little more well done than simple hand fabrication. Okay? So now, many of you all, yourself included, are always on me about teaching, and I've never stopped teaching. Not only the art of silversmithing, but copper, bronze, brass, gold, palladium, so forth and so on. So now, that's all fine and dandy, but what do we do with this? In Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood, okay, the Black Wall Street, they learned oil refining, but they didn't know how best to. Are we still good?
We're good. Yes, sir.
But they didn't know how best to deal with converting that into the systems that would give their children a future and to build something that was in their best interest, which is a nation. A community, that's not going to help you because you're still in the box. You can't keep the nation in the box too long. It's going to explode. It's going to overcome the box. And at this point, that's not where we are yet, because we're still in reference to what is our ultimate goal. It's money, and that cannot be your ultimate goal. Before we got started, I think I was telling you that American script, okay, did not exist before the Civil War. Each state had its own money. Okay, different colors, so forth and so on, different sizes, different print, and all that was completely devastated with the concept of Lincoln borrowing money from the Illuminati to fight the South in the so-called Civil War. And once that happened, the Lincoln propounded the whole concept and thought he actually backflipped the Illuminati, but it didn't work that way. And he creating something called Lincoln's greenbacks. He federalized the entire concept of money. Okay, in 1942 or 43, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, pushed a bill through Congress that made it illegal for an American citizen to own gold. Very few people know that. And the only gold you could actually have would be a keepsake that someone in your family gave you, or a wedding band, but any other goal that you had to actually turn that over to the United States federal government. And they purchased it at 65% of the value of gold on that day, because gold changes every day. All right. Now I buy gold. I have a precious metal recovery business. All right. And I pay 72%, but the government is only paying 65%, which means the value of the gold went up.
Right.
So what they bought, instantly they're making profit off of, and then your ability to buy what you need with the new money that you just got from all the gold you turned in becomes lesser, because the value of the money is going down as the value of the gold is going up.
Right.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Somebody else is controlling what it is that you're trying to create in their box that you think is going to give you freedom. You're still going to the lion asking him how to run faster than he can run to catch you and eat you up. Well, run on 3 legs,
Right.
or run on 2 legs instead of 4. And that's where we are right now. We're confused. And that's, once again, identity crisis. And then through proper understanding of who you are, Lakota Sioux, Yotanka, you then get a greater understanding of what direction you're supposed to be moving in. Attire, very easily, with all this talk about going back to Africa, and the mental hierarchy of our people. I'm going to conscious. I'm going back to Africa.
Right.
I'm going to Belize. I'm going whatever, right? But see, if all that's all that, how come tens of thousands of those people in relationship to our people are coming here as opposed to us going there?
Right.
No, the battle is here.
Right.
Because this is where they took all that you had. And I'm an old hip hopper. I go back, and I'm 77 this year. Old hip hopper.
Mm-hmm.
I go back to Run DMC. Brother said, proud to be black, y'all, and that's a fact, y'all, and what you took from me, I'm gonna take back, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to recognize that if you keep punching me in my face, man, even though I might be scared of you or don't believe I can stand up to you or whatever, I gotta take a chance. Because I'm not doing anything to you. A slave in your fields. I worked in your plants,
Right.
Henry Ford. You know what I'm saying? Identification creates sanctification. Sanctification gives us the quiet peace and arrested reality, arrested development, to be unencumbered in creating the direction that we will go in, to discern who we are. But as long as we're using their methods, we'll end up in the direction that they push us in. Right now, go to college. I heard you say something the other day about you went until you decided that you weren't going to go anymore,
Right.
and you only had 10 hours left to do this, that, or the other,
Right.
and I congratulated you. Now, I didn't say don't go to college.
Right.
I didn't say that. I got 5 children, and they're in their 50s, late 40s and early 50s, and 2 of them went to college, and they have businesses, and 3 of them didn't go to college, and they have businesses.
Right.
Okay, and all of them have some sense of direction. Culturally, that's real important, but even more important is politically.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about no Democrat, Republican. I'm talking about the politics of interacting with those about us to determine, that word is again, what direction we're supposed to be moving in.
Right.
Because we're misdirected right now, and that's not good.
Right.
He's about to go off the edge of the cliff, and he's riding these horses, and you're in the stagecoach. And when the horses go off the edge of the cliff, the stagecoach is going off the edge of the cliff, and you're all going to the bottom of that ravine, and you're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You saw COVID. That ain't the first time that any of this happened.
Right.
It's not going to be the last time.
Right.
Now, what do we do about it? Separate? See, I'm not coming that strong. Separate. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about separate your mind, okay, from the energies that he's creating to maintain imperialistic reality and capitalistic involvement around the world. You're taking people's stuff
Right.
and calling it your own. You know, like one of the biggest thieves in the entire industry of inventing or inventions was Thomas Alva Edison. This guy didn't invent nothing, he stole everybody else's inventions. But his machinery was so strong that he made, they would go to court, Granville T. Woods took him to court, you know what I'm saying? And it looked like his lawyers were so strong that they would win out. Well, Granville T. Woods did win, okay, and actually got the patent for, I believe it was the electric light, the filament, or whatever it was, I'm not quite sure. But that's a minute opportunity that doesn't happen.
Right.
What happens is they win.
Right.
It's their stuff. So it's like you're playing a sport of football, and there's no level playing field.
Right.
They're running downfield on you. You're running upfield on them.
And defending, we're defending downhill. They're running downhill.
Yes. So at this point, the children are getting tired. The women are getting frustrated. And the old folks are smiling because you're moving in the right direction, trying to do what we're doing here. And you just got to be patient, but you got to be resourceful to the point that you're coming up with ideas that better enhance our people's future.
Right.
Because right now, this don't look good.
Right.
See, we were out there at the St. Louis African Arts Festival, right? And what were we doing? We were celebrating, right? Priorities wrong. Before you celebrate, you preparate. I looked around, I saw security, I saw what security was not. I'm leaving a whole lot of stuff in my booth in there, you know what I'm saying? And I'm looking to see who's protecting that at night. I'm back in there, in and out of there, watching. And here, as well as any of the festivals that we go to, are under protected. Because we believe everything's going to be all right. No, it's going to be all right if we make it all right.
Right.
That means young men your age. Now, I'm an exception because I'm old, but I'm still good. I can run a marathon. Okay, I don't want to run a marathon,
right,
but I can run a marathon.
Yes, sir.
I was playing basketball with some young brothers. It was dunking the basketball. So I won. Okay, I'm saying it's not a matter of us moving in the wrong direction, but not even paying attention to the idea that we should reevaluate what direction we're moving in. We're happy to do whatever it is that we're doing. This has nothing to do with happiness.
Right.
How can you be happy and half of your generation is locked down in his jails, in his prisons, in his mental institutions, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
In his hospitals, all of that. Right. On dope, about to get on dope, dying from dope. Well, that is going to put us in a position to get even more involved with critical thinking. Because the forces they're bringing to us are more critical. You see, the whole concept of COVID America, okay, is something that's scared to be Jabowitz. That's a mythological German word. Scared to be Jabowitz out of Negroes. I still see Negroes today walking around with masks on. Don't you realize that that's worse than no mask? Because you're breathing in the carbon monoxide, you see what I'm saying, that poisons you. That's what you give off
for a reason,
to create a greater photosynthesis between sunlight and the chlorophyll in the leaves of trees to give you oxygen.
Right.
And you give them carbon monoxide, okay? Carbon dioxide, whatever the hell it is, and that helps the tree grow, and the tree helps you grow.
Right.
But and not understanding that, you put the mask on because you're scared.
No, you're so full of yourself as if it's actually you're full of yourself because you're separating yourself as a greater or in a certain way.
That's exactly where we are. We're creating a false concept of how to feel good.
Right.
It's not important to feel good, okay, or to look good.
Right.
You know what's important to be? It's to be good.
That's right.
To be or not to be.
Right.
I'm not really a nice person. I don't mean I'd be ugly or anything like that, but I put a little more bearing on being good
Right.
than on being nice.
Right.
So when I teach the young brothers, we go off into the woods, you know what I'm saying? We learn how to survive with a canteen and a knife and all that stuff. We're not talking about the easy way,
Right.
nor are we talking about the hard way.
Right.
We're talking about the best way.
Right.
Sometimes the best way is hard, sometimes the best way is easy.
Right.
But let's search for the best way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to get a little more conclusive and end this, the best way to go into a business that is sustainably black related to a future for our people is to watch the people that are already doing that.
Right.
You can read, I ain't saying don't read. You can study, you can do all that. But watch them cats, this is working. I mean, you brought me in here to film.
Right.
I ain't Donald Duck, I'm somebody that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm saying, you're someone that makes sense to me or I wouldn't even let you film me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I questioned you a lot before we even got involved with this, and I know you and I love you.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to look at that this is our mission,
Right.
our purpose. And once you've discovered your purpose and you're on a mission to conclude your purpose,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes of an even greater consequence to help others to discover what their purpose is.
Right.